time.
I have no idea what happened to Alan Paizo. He never even left the starting line when the green flag was thrown. Jack Willman was ready with Taurus, and he showed that that qualifying run was indeed a fluke. Look at this launch. He hits it but keeps it low. Absolutely perfect form. It didn't go sideways one way or the other. It did come off the cars a little rough. You can see Willman getting thrown around in there, but there really wasn't anybody in the middle.
So it's Rob Morris, the four-wheel crazy, going to go against Jack Willman in the final.
What a wild, wild way to go. And Jack Willman comes from the number 4 qualifying spot to take on the number 1 qualifier when we get into monster truck competition. And we've got our 4 qualifiers in the mud racing shootout. Here's the way it stands in the Grand Slam. Number 1 qualifier, Melvin Brown in the Red Heat Dragster at a track record 1.85 second run. Ron Smith in the Gold Fever at 188. Chad Miller's Instant T at 188. And Jeremy Findlay in the Kicker Jeep at 190. The quickest 4-car Grand Slam shootout in history. And it's coming up next.
Unbelievable times. Here we go. Watch him now. Byron Tinky.
Good pass. He stops it in time. The machine was actually airborne down at the finish line. He's got to go quicker than 190 to get in. Moving around in those ruts. Airborne right at the finish line. The elapsed time, 2.07 seconds, will not be enough to get Byron Tinky in the final. So we remain with a 1.90 second bump spot. And here's the man who qualified 4th in the quickest field ever, Jerry.
Well, here we go. This is the first now of our Fast 4.
Jeremy Findlay in the Kicker, the Chevy powered Jeep.
The shootout begins. Gets crossed up a little bit coming out of the gate, but then he had a good run.
No question, and you have to expect the times to be a little bit slower in the shootout. And you know why, Jerry, because that starting line is such a mess after having 24 vehicles leave on it. As you can see, Findlay had to manhandle this machine as, again, those 2 ruts down this very narrow course are making things extremely difficult. The elapsed time, as we expected, a little bit slower for Findlay, 2.09 seconds. Remember, he was the first man down the track at 1.90 seconds. He slowed down because of that slippery starting line.
And our next racer rolls to the line.
This is the man who ran an unbelievable 1.85 second shot. Melvin Brown in the Red Heat Dragster, the defending grand champion.
Rear engine design. They feel that putting the engine in the back like this, a little bit more weight on those rear wheels.
When this thing hooks up, those front wheels don't do a thing.
Gets the front end up in the air a little bit.
Melvin, we can expect him to probably slow down, but that was much quicker than 2.09 seconds after he qualified at 185. The rear engine nitrous injected dragster. Watch the front wheels. About the 30-foot mark, he picks them up. They're just skimming the surface. The elapsed time, 1.88 seconds. Incredible consistency for Brown. He puts the pressure on the rest of the field.
Especially when the track conditions are with what they are. All right, this is Gold Fever.
Ron Smith out of Michigan qualified the supercharged 4-wheel drive Fiat Topolino at 188 300ths of a second behind Melvin Brown. He's now got to better that 188 to take the lead.
Looks like in between rounds he even cleaned it up a little bit.
Did a heck of a job too.
Boy, the power is there. Can he stop it? He does.
Within about 5 feet of the disqualification boundary, Smith right there. He had to go quicker than 1.88 seconds to win. Leaves the line picture perfect straight. The ruts didn't seem to affect him. The ET, another 1.88 second run. He may have tied Melvin Brown, but in this sport, you've got to better the time to beat.
All right, the Instant T, the final one in the Fast 4. So this will be the final racer in order to take the win. Let's see if he can do it. Hands up in the air, showing that he's clear of all the controls.
As the ground crew hooks up the kill switch, Chad Miller, you remember back in the beginning of the year in Tampa, put serious damage onto this thing by flipping it 2 times in front of 64,000 people, but here he is back and ready to go. The supercharged 1927 Ford Street Roadster trying to beat 1.
Puts the pedal down. A good run.
like the arms out of the cockpit. He already knew he was going to stop it in time. He leaves the starting line with a little bit of tire spin. You see the rear end come around to the side, but then straight and true, a wheel stand at half track, but he shut it off just a little early. The elapsed time, 1:91, and he will not better Melvin Brown in the red heat for the second consecutive year. The Ohio dragster pilot takes the win. Melvin Brown, red heat, leading the way at another 188. Second, with an identical 188, is Ron Smith in the Gold Fever. Then Chad Miller's 191 and the 209 by Jeremy Findlay.
Well, coming up, the finals in the monster truck. Ready to go, four-wheel crazy. The blue Ford truck and the Chevy truck Taurus. Jack Willman behind the controls, ready to go.
Pretty strange evening for the purple Chevrolet from Granite City, Illinois, qualifying dead last in the field, but then showing us that he always had the power.
This should be a good race. Those of you sitting at home watching, who do you think is going to be the winner? This is going to be close.
Bob Morris already pointing out he thinks he's tougher than Taurus, the points leader. Let's see.
Chevrolet against Ford.
Wow! Holy cow!
You couldn't ask for a wilder landing than that. Jack Willman keeps it upright and takes the win in the Taurus machine, being handed the checkered flag, and the crowd loves it. Watch the right side of your screen. Willman got the whole shot. Look at this landing, literally in the mud pit, through the finish line pole, sideways again, and he keeps it upright. Incredible.
The finish line pole actually going over the whole truck and rolling across the hood.
Incredible. Absolutely amazing job by Jack Willman. Here was Rob Morris in the other lane. He apparently took the conservative approach, keeping it relatively low to the ground. After going airborne a couple of times, he also gets sideways in the air. Now, it's very interesting that Jack Willman said that he was trying to correct the problem of the truck getting sideways in the air, Jerry, but it did it again.
It certainly did, and that's going to be a difficult problem to solve.
Especially if it gets that out of control when it's in the air. But Jack Willman pulls it off with an incredible victory from the dead last starting position here at the Riverfront Colliseum. And indeed, that will give Willman a big boost in the World Points Championship. When we come back, we'll talk to our winners and check out the World Point standings. Stay with us.
Number one spot, number one or two spot, where the cars ain't so smashed down, you kind of save your truck for the later on in the event, you know. And most generally, Bret, as you know, as you watch me, if I draw a number one or two, I won't go too hard on qualifying. I'll try to save the truck for the tougher competition.
On the first round, you had the right lane of competition. You ended up in the left lane in the final. Why?
Well, I didn't have a lane choice. That's one of the things whenever you back off on qualifying, that you don't get a lane choice. Your opponent gets lane choice. But, you know, sometimes in different situations, I don't worry about that because I figure the truck can handle any lane I put it in.
Now, we've seen you in some pretty wild positions, Jack, but in the final round, that truck almost got away from you. You have to admit that.
Yes, it sure did, Bret. It was pulling to the... It picked the left front wheel and pulled to the right on me is what it did.
Now, you seem to be paying more attention to your starting line reactions recently, almost like a drag racing standpoint where the whole shot is all that matters. Is that true?
That's exactly right. And we just put a new transmission in it because at the last event, we wasn't getting out of the hole. As a matter of fact, we figured we lost 2/10 in the hole. And 2/10 don't sound like much, but in these short drag racing type deals, that's quite a bit. So we put a new transmission in it. And of course, you could tell it was lifting the left front wheel on it. So you could see the transmission was hooking up and we wasn't losing so much time out of the gate.
Well, Jack, we have a monitor down there on the floor right in front of you. Look at the monitor and tell us about this wild final.
Okay, yeah, you can see it, the left front wheel come up and it goes to the right. And then I just start trying to correct it from that point. And of course, it made a pretty good landing, you can see, and I just kind of kept it under control, you know, and give it some gas, and it pulled out of it. Of course, I kind of ended up in a mud pit there a little bit, which I didn't really want to do. Got to wash your truck now.
It is absolutely amazing to me how you can sit there and watch that and say, yeah, it was under control. Didn't it feel like it was starting to get away from you when it was in the air? It almost had to.
No, it didn't. You know, I've been doing this for 11 years and kind of get used to it, I guess. You know, somebody knew it would have probably concerned them quite a bit, Bret.
Well, heck of a job tonight. I know you want to win the World Championship. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, Bret. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Well, here's Melvin Brown. Melvin, tough steering that car with the wheels up.
No, not really. You just got to go the way the rear end feels. If it starts getting out of control, you got to let out and steer it.
Well, take a look at the monitor and tell us about that run.
Okay.
It looked like it had spun the tires a little bit, Melvin.
Yeah, it was doing pretty good right in there. Somewhere right about there, it started taking off to the right side, and I had let out. I thought it was going to get out of control. My brakes were wet, too.
Well, regardless, an incredible job. A pair of 1.8-second runs, your second consecutive win in front of your hometown fans here. A simply tremendous job.
Thanks a lot, Bret.
We also have Mr. Fireball Ken Crum down there. For replacing a DeSoto with a Chevy, that was pretty spectacular. What happened?
Well, we're really not sure. It seems to be making a little more horsepower than the other motor did, and we think we blew the tires away leaving the line. It started pulling pretty good when we left the line, and really don't know what happened. We'll have to get it back, get it apart, see what happened.
Well, take a look at the monitor, Ken, and
Okay.
Tell us what happened.
Well, I mean, right there, it looked like it left hard. It pulled the tires up like it should have, and right there, as it detonates, like the car spins around, it still seems to be pulling pretty good. Inside the car, it shook a little bit, but it didn't. You really couldn't tell it happened.
Did you know it was on fire?
Not at all, not until he ran up and told me, try to get out of the car, it's on fire, and I just told him to put the car out,
Still, we hope to see you back soon, Ken. It was a rough way to debut any car.
Okay, thanks.
Certainly one of the wildest runs we've ever seen in U.S. Hot Rod Association competition.
One of the wildest shows we've had here on ESPN.
That's for sure. And now with only 2 events left in the 64 race 1990 U.S. Hot Rod Association National Event Tour, the points races are getting serious. Let's take a look at the super modified and monster truck point standings. In the mud racing standings, you'll notice one big change. The number 5 spot, the Red Heat dragster of Melvin Brown, our winner here tonight, moved him from the second half to the top half in the points. However, Tom Martin's Mud Patrol still leads. Jim Weber's American Made is second.
Mystic Warrior, number 3, Stuffy's T, number 4, and like you say, Red Heat, number 5.
It'll be a big boost for Melvin Brown going into the final 2 events of the year. In the second half of the top 10, Ron Smith's Gold Fever, because of his final round appearance here in the shootout this evening, moves into number 6. Chad Miller in the Instant T, same deal. His appearance